Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is vision. We get to be looking at our vision for ourselves and the world today. So it should be a lot of fun. Before we get started though, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, and bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, electrifying, energizing, illuminating all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, and lighting you up from the inside out. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together. Very softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms and feel the deliciousness of that sensation. Allow yourself to really become present to the amazing magic of feeling that sensation. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome, welcome. It's so good to have you here with us today. And yeah, so today we're talking about vision. And what is your vision for your life, for the world? What do you see when you step back and look around and entertain the possibilities that abound? And what possibilities are you going to choose for yourself? What possibilities are you going to create? Good afternoon, Pat. Wonderful to have you here, Pat. So we're talking about vision today, and vision in the context of the future and our lives and what we're envisioning for ourselves and for the world. And yeah, so what is the vision that you have that you're living into? I've shared with you a bunch, a vision of an eco park that is a resource, education, entertainment, training center that is magical and wonderful and inspiring and filled with possibility. So what are you envisioning in the world and in your life? I'm envisioning a world where we live sustainably, where we find a way to thrive in partnership with the planet and nature, rather than it's in this paradigm of domination and control and extraction and overuse. So I'm imagining and envisioning a lifestyle that is much more connected to nature and the planet and to other people. So what's in your vision? What are you envisioning for yourself? I think it's really important for us to take time to direct energy toward our vision, like to create a vision and to be living into it. I had a really interesting conversation yesterday with, so Rosalind says, drought is so prevalent in California, waiting for rain or looming forward to desalination water treatment technology, to looking forward to desalination water treatment technology to become an affordable supply of drinking water or moving to another state. Well, you know, you bring up such a good point, Rosalind. Drought, water issues are going, it looks like water issues are going to become more and more prevalent. Good morning, Andrea. Welcome. It's so good to have you here with us. Yes, so water scarcity has been predicted for a long time to be the next frontier, that there would be wars fought over water. And I recently came across a technology that pulls water from the air. And I know that we've been talking about desalination for a long time, and it's expensive, and but I suspect that there will be new technologies emerging to accomplish that, but also to be gathering water from the air. You might look it up. I wish I could tell you a website. I don't know the name of the technology, but I was just recently researching it to invite those folks for an interview on Sustainability Now. Good morning, Bernadette. So good to have you here. And welcome to everybody out there. It's always wonderful to have you all join us. So when you're talking about vision, so a vision of people having enough water to drink, you know, so here's the thing, this is just crazy. You know, we're in California, especially, suffering drought, right? Well, we have, how crazy is our sewage system? How crazy is it to be using water that people need to drink to flush down the toilet? It's insane, right? Like it makes no sense that we have utilized a precious resource to just flush down the toilet. It's crazy, right? Hello and welcome, Tammy. So good to have you here with us. So we're talking about vision. So part of my vision for the future and for my life as well is to be living more sustainably, that human beings on the planet live more sustainably. Water toilets make no sense, right? If we recognize water as a valued resource, why in the world would we be polluting it? It's crazy. Pat says the Great Lakes are shrinking. I think part of the reason that we're having water shortages on the planet is because of so much of the deforestation that we've done. You know, when we preserve our soil, and preserve our plants, what's happening is that there's a whole life underneath the soil. When we kill off the biome, what happens is that the soil dies and it becomes dirt. And the impact is not just on the soil, because when we have lush planting, then it actually changes the climate. It actually changes the water tables. It preserves the water tables. You know, what happens is when the soil becomes dirt, when there's a rain, it can't absorb the water. When the soil is lush and rich, what happens is there's a whole life under the soil that sucks in the water from the atmosphere, and it refills the aquifers. And, you know, there's this whole cycle that we get to repair, and it is reparable. It is reparable. One of the things that we can do is plant trees. So hi, Josie, wonderful to have you here with us. Welcome. And Bernadette says too much waste by humans. 100%. You know, what we've done is we've disconnected ourselves from the cycles of nature, and through development, through our really destructive forms of farming uh, and deforestation and just sucking up the resources of the planet heedlessly, what we've done is we've destroyed a lot of the natural cycles of abundance. So Tammy says we had plenty of water last week in Connecticut. It flooded a few towns in my state bad. Yes, Philadelphia also, and in this area there was a lot of flooding. And with the hurricane that came through, one of the things that happens as a result of the destruction that we've wrought on the planet and the CO2 emissions from the use of fossil fuel that we have used to assuage our addiction, also changes the climate. It changes the temperatures, and what we're having is more extreme temperatures and more extreme weather conditions. So Tammy says plenty of water we had here. So yeah, we had plenty of water here as well, all at once. And the flooding also is a consequence to a certain degree of the way that we have managed our land. Again, not preserving the land's ability to absorb water. So, you know, it's a whole cycle. It's not one thing. And that's something that we have as humans lost sight of. Particularly in our culture in the US, well, Western culture, let's just say, that we've taken an attitude of domination and control, and also isolated problems, you know, looking at, I mean, we even see this in medicine, you know, you might have a heart issue, but we look at the heart and not the whole picture of, you know, like maybe there are other things, for instance, in your diet or in your lifestyle that are compromising the whole system, that is then putting the pressure on the heart. And instead we just look at the heart and fix it in air quotes, without looking at the whole picture. This is all part of vision, right? That we get to expand the range of our vision to recognize that everything is interconnected. And the same with the environment. You know, we have looked at, for instance, farming, industrial farming. How that evolved was by looking at what the plants need, so the minerals and chemicals that they need in the soil, without looking at how those mineral cycles actually occur in nature. And we just sort of dumped chemicals on things to make them grow and to optimize their production. And as a result, threw things further and further out of balance, and killed the soil, you know, killed all the life, the microbes, the bacteria, all kinds of things that are in the soil that the soil needed to be able to feed the plants that fed the groundwater, et cetera, et cetera. So when we're talking about vision today, part of vision is expanding our view to be able to see the bigger picture. And so Bernadette says, I'd like to see waterless toilets and dishwashers water go out automatically to the yards. Of course, in apartments, it's more difficult, but it can nourish trees and grass. Well, you know, the other thing is, we really, if we're going to be using water, like, first of all, I agree with you 100%, waterless toilets. There's no excuse for having water toilets as far as I can see. So that whole system needs to be reworked in a big way. And why not have water, like have maybe a closed system in homes that is purifying the water. So why not have, first of all, use detergents and stuff that are non-toxic, and have a system in the house that can recycle that water. Makes sense, right? Why not? Why not? There's so much waste. Right now things go into a municipal system for the most part, and waste treatment, and things are chemicalized, and we flush all kinds of stuff down the toilet, and including drugs and medications, and they further toxify the water, and then it's treated with chemicals. And yeah, so what we get to do is envision. So the future happens first by vision, first by creating the idea. As we develop our ideas, that's how we bring reality into being, right? First we create a vision, so and then move from that vision. So there are lots of people that are looking to create solutions for all this stuff, but as we think about sewage and municipalities, if you think about Flint, Michigan, where the water became so toxic that people couldn't drink it. If you look at, I forget where it was in Pennsylvania, the water, because of fracking, the water became so polluted that you could light the water on fire from your faucet. I mean, crazy, crazy, crazy pollution. And it just makes no sense the way we're doing things. So Bernadette says, we use a biodegradable laundry detergent that's all natural. Norwex, I don't know what Norwex is the best for removing chemicals. I don't know what that is, but I also know that, for instance, there's using an electrolyzer, it's possible to process waste so that the result, not just an electrolyzer, but a process of, I guess it's an electrical based process, but it's possible to take sewage, raw sewage, and convert it to potable water and fertilizer, and it eliminates all the chemicals, it eliminates all the pharmaceuticals from the water. So there are systems, there are things that we can do to have clean water, to be conserving water, not just out of the faucet. I mean, we get to change our behavior patterns, right? So if you're building a house, find an alternative to water-based toilets. It's craziness, crazy, crazy, craziness. I mean, people don't want to have to deal with their own waste, literally bio waste, but we get to re-educate ourselves and re-indoctrinate ourselves, because their human waste can be really wonderful fertilizer, can be converted to wonderful fertilizer that we can use to grow food. Like, we are part of the biology of the planet, and the time of being able to throw things away is past. There is no away. You know, when we throw things away, it goes from our backyard to somebody else's. That's all that happens. And so we get to rethink so much of what we do. You know, what if you couldn't throw your trash away? Like, what if there was no way to send it to? What would we do? What can we envision as new possibilities for living that are more in line with the understanding that we have limited resources, and that it's not an endless pool of materials that we can continue to tap. Pat says, waste not, want not. And I love that. I love that saying. And, you know, it's interesting because we also get to make a balance. My brother throws things away a lot, and I don't throw things away as much. And he's called me a hoarder, and I'm not a hoarder. I may be a collector, but I'm not a hoarder. I again try not to waste. And there I have been starting to clear things out of my apartment. I've been talking about it for a long time, but I finally have actually begun purging stuff. And it's challenging because, again, I don't want to be wasting things. I also don't want to just be throwing things away into the big away in the sky. You know, I'd like to find ways to repurpose what I have, or to rehome it, you know, because there is no such thing as a way. And so there's a balance, I guess, between well, a balance in what is waste, you know. Part of the issue with waste, the biggest issue with waste is our consumerism, right? Buying more things, getting more things, having more things. You know, the more we have, the more we tend to waste, I think. Or I don't know. I don't know. It's a slippery slope. These are dilemmas that I contend with on a pretty regular basis. And you know, like how to divest ourselves of stuff, and to do so responsibly. You know, what does that look like? You know, how do we? And I'm very grateful, for instance, for Salvation Army and Purple Heart, and organizations that take things that people want to divest themselves of, and distribute them to people in need, or make them available for sale, and then use that money to support and help people in need. So Pat says, my neighbor uses my food waste bin as I never use it. Eggshells, tea bags, etc. go on the compost. So if your neighbor is using your food waste bin, maybe that can go on the compost too. So that's something I do. Is there's a woman who started a company, knowing all the food waste. And food waste, by the way, is like the third largest contributor to greenhouse gases on the planet, because it rots. It goes in, for instance, to if we send it to the dump, for example. Good morning, Christina. So good to see you here. If we mix food waste in with our garbage, our trash, it goes to landfill and it rots and it creates greenhouse gases. So, that's another really good point, is the more we get involved with composting, the better off we'll all be. So, and some municipalities collect food waste for compost and then compost it. The thing that I understand about municipal composting is that it contributes hugely to greenhouse gases because of the way that it is processed. So it's often put in big, vast areas. And again, it's off-gassing. But on a personal level, on a home-based level, not so much, apparently. Like it's manageable, and it's not the foul contributor to greenhouse gases. But anyway, there's a woman who saw the need for mitigating this food waste, and she started a company collecting food waste and just, taking it to a compost center. And so every 2 weeks, she collects a bucket of food waste. Of course, we pay for the service, and because I don't have a garden, I live in an apartment, and this is one thing I can do to not be contributing to the gases, greenhouse gases, and it's just one way that I can be more socially responsible. I don't think it's just a feel-good exercise. I'm pretty sure that it really is making a difference, by having all of this, the garbage go to a place where it can be recycled into soil, usable soil. So when we think about vision, part of my vision for the future is that these things are natural, that these things are the way that we live, not something radical to be, discussing, not an anomaly, but a general practice. And, the thing about recycling of plastics is that most of those plastics never make it to a recycling center. And after plastics are only recyclable to a point. So one of the things that I envision is no more plastics that don't degrade. I envision that we use materials that ultimately go back to the planet, that they are part of a life cycle. So Christina says we don't have recyclables pickup, but we're able to compost. That's awesome. And we bring metal, plastic, and glass to the recycling center ourselves. We are also rethinking using one-use items altogether. Exactly. Well, that's something, good for you, Christina, first of all, for composting and also taking stuff to the recycling center. The plastic stuff, the quicker we can eliminate and at least minimize our use of plastics, the better, because most of them don't get recycled. So, and the other thing is that plastics are, plastic containers leach into the food or beverages, and with changes of temperature, there's all kinds of chemicals that we're consuming when we're consuming things from plastic. So that's something to really be taking under advisement, not only for the recycling aspect, but for our health. We do all these things for convenience, buying foods that are packaged in plastic. And sometimes it's really hard to avoid. It's really hard to avoid. So single-use plastics are a real scourge on the planet. And it's not an easy thing to avoid completely. It just isn't easy. It takes planning, it takes creativity, etc. So we were talking about vision for the future, vision for our lives, vision for the planet, and or the world. I think it's important to step back periodically and look at our vision. Look at how we can imagine the world into being. We dream the world into being. So Pat says, I work in a supermarket. I see trolleys piled high with food and feel sure most of it gets wasted. People buy in case food. Oh, people buy in case food, just in case we need it. Yes, a lot of food gets wasted, and a lot of food gets wasted. The most food gets wasted, not from us overbuying, although that's a really important thing, to use what we buy, but it gets incredible amounts of food get wasted in production. It's crazy. So Christina says, we have had a worm bin for composting for 10 years now. If looking to do this, look up the worm lady on your local conservation district to make your own. It can be placed in any dark area. Atlanta Airport has a huge one. That is so cool, Christina. I have been thinking about having a worm bin for years. I have a tiny apartment, and I don't know where I'd put the worm bin. And I've heard mixed reviews about how how to keep it, and smells and things like that. I know that it's not supposed to really smell much, just like a little, like leaves, etc. But I've heard mixed reviews, but I'm still very interested and intrigued. I think that's awesome that you're doing that. The worm lady, I will definitely check out the worm lady. Very, very cool. So Christina says, my friend keeps hers in the office, the worm bin. So I guess there's not much smell to it. I don't know. It can't be worse than the smell of garbage. That's for sure, right? Anyway, so thank you guys. Thank you for the cool suggestions. Thank you for visioning a future where we can maybe do things a whole lot better as a species on the planet. And I just love you guys so much. I'm so grateful for these times together in our conversations. And so Christina says the worms love coffee grinds, and that smells good. I can't drink coffee. I had a cup of coffee the other day, and oh my gosh, it just knocked me for a loop for the whole day, and then I couldn't sleep at night, and it's just crazy. I used to enjoy drinking coffee, and now I just can't drink it. Anyway, so that's it for today. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. I so appreciate you and all the wonderful programming on Enlightened World Network on their Facebook page, and on Enlightened World Living and EWN One with the Earth. So please check out the other awesome programming, and thank you so much for being with me, and I hope to share time again with you really, really soon. So much love.